Beautiful. Welcome, everyone, to my free live workshop, Become the Woman Secure Love Chooses Without Chasing. I am so grateful for all of you who chose to be here tonight with me. Tonight's going to be special. We're going to go over a lot of valuable, insightful information for you. We're going to have an opportunity to get to know each other, to be in community and just to be able to receive and be present. So, why don't we begin? A few mujeres are still coming in. Awesome. All right, so you're in the right place if you feel like you've done the work and love still feels activating. You are done choosing love from a place of survival, anxiety, urgency, and you're ready for love that feels calm, mutual, and secure, right? So a lot of today's conversation is going to be about love, survival, safety. You're going to notice I'm going to be using similar words, throughout. In today's workshop, what you're going to learn is knowing that like you can know your worth, right? And I have no doubt that all of you are worthy mujeres. You know that on an intellectual level. However, we may still find ourselves choosing the wrong partners, choosing partners that are unavailable or partners that aren't for us. You're going to be able to recognize the different types of survival the different types of how survival shows up in love. There's anxiety, avoidant, and high functioning. You're going to also understand the difference between chemistry and nervous system activation. We're going to go through the three shifts to be able to attract secure love. And at the end, I'm going to share how we can work together if it is something that you would like. So let's begin. All right. So my intention for today, I'm not here to fix you, right? I'm here to help you understand your patterns, help you learn how to create safety within yourself, your body, your nervous system. So that way you can choose love that feels healthy, secure, without having to abandon or lose yourself in the process. And also to remind you, right, and give you the hope that healthy, secure love is possible and that you are all deserving of it. So let's get honest for a moment, okay? I'm going to ask a few questions. And whatever comes to you, whatever feels true for you, I want you to share your response in the chat. So let's begin. So when it comes to love, I usually feel A, calm until something shifts, B, anxious once I'm attached, C, guarded, so protective, D, exploring or not sure. So in the chat, um, share your response. All right, so I'm seeing some B, some anxiety, calm until something happens. Yes. Someone said anxiety and guarded. Okay. Calm until shifting. Okay, beautiful. Yes. And just know that, we're not here to, to shame or feel bad about what's true for us. This is just to be able to bring awareness to it so that we know what it is that we need to work on. The next question. Drop one word, whatever comes up first, when I complete these sentences. Okay, so when someone I like, when someone I like pulls back, pulls away from me, right? My body feels. So how does your body feel when someone pulls away? Okay, anxious, yeah. hmm Activated, unsettled. hmm The word I associate when with dating lately is, so when you think of the word dating, what's the word that you associate with it? So how does dating feel for you right now? I know for me, sometimes I go back and forth. Sometimes it's exciting. Sometimes it's disappointing. Sometimes it's exhausting. It's scary. Yes. Hopeful, not fun, daunting, disappointing. Yeah. All right. Hopeful but disappointing, exhausting. Yeah. Right now, love feels. How does love feel right now? Unattainable, impossible, non-existent, full. Yeah. Yeah. Questionable. hmm One last question here. If this sounds like you, type yes in the chat. So you overthink texts, dates, conversations. You think that having a spark means it's real or that there's connection. You want calm love, but you still get pulled towards like intensity. Yes, 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 yes. Well, thank you all for just being so honest. And just know that all the things that you're sharing, I myself have experienced that as well. And I'll be able to share more about my story in a moment. Um, but yeah, thank you for participating. And as you see here, right, many of us are experiencing similar, right, emotions, experiences, right? It's just to validate that it's a shared experience. Um, all right. So again, welcome. My name is Norma Garcia. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, uh, love and relationship coach, sound bath practitioner, and founder of Amalu Therapy and Wellness. As you can tell, I'm a multi-passionate healer. I believe in helping individuals heal with different modalities. But beyond all the titles and all of this, right? I'm first human. I'm human, and so I also want to, share with you a bit of my story in terms of who I am and how did I even get to where I am now. All right, so my story. So as you can see here, right, just a visual, a little bit of my life. As you can see, I love to travel. So I was born and raised here in Los Angeles, California, specifically in the San Fernando Valley. I'm a very proud daughter of two Mexican immigrants. They are from from Guadalajara, Jalisco. I'm also the only daughter, so I have three brothers. I went to UCLA for my undergraduate and my master's degree. So I bleed blue and gold. I love UCLA. It's my alma mater, and I definitely have a heart for them. In terms of my professional career, like I mentioned, I am a social worker. So I have worked in community mental health. So, what that means is that I used to work in outpatient clinics, schools, in the field, doing crisis, providing therapy. I did that for about 10 years until I burnt out. I burnt out from that. And as of 2.5 years ago, I transitioned into full-time entrepreneurship where now I have my private practice where I provide therapy services for anyone who is in California. I also provide coaching, love and relationship coaching, and also sound healing. So for me, entrepreneurship also has been an awakening, a spiritual journey, which I'll be able to share more about today. Um, Again, I've been doing this for like over 12 years now, so I've supported hundreds and hundreds of clients through their healing journey, whether again it's mental health, relationship, generational trauma, nervous system, safety, all of that. And a fun fact about me, like I mentioned, I love to travel. I studied abroad in undergrad, and I did my first international trip by myself. And since then, I fell in love, and it's been my mission to try to go as many countries as I have. And for me, that's it's part of my healing journey as well. And one thing that I used to love to do, which I don't do anymore, but I used to be an Aztec and folklorico dancers. So that's a way that I've been able to connect to my culture. Um, so I definitely want to know where you guys are all coming in. So if you want to share in the chat where it is that you're coming from, um, something that you would want to, share about yourself, maybe a fun fact, and what are you hoping, what's your intention? What are you hoping to get out of coming today? So I will give you guys a moment to do that. So yes, where are you tuning in from? Awesome. Okay, Los Angeles, Riverside, LA, Valencia, the Valley. Yay, the Valley. Amazing. LA, Granada Hills, beautiful. All right. So we're going to transition a bit and start going through some of the work here. So I want to ask you a question. Okay. So when you think of, right, love, relationships, what do you think is the biggest problem? So it could be for yourself. What do you feel is your biggest problem in attracting that partnership that you want or having that relationship? And again, there's no right or wrong, right? Just like your honest opinion if you want to share with us. Okay. So let's see what some of the answers may be. So you may think that your biggest problem is that you keep attracting emotional available partners. You don't trust your judgment in love, meaning that you're not trusting yourself. You're doing dating wrong or missing the right strategy. So I'm here to tell you that what's actually blocking secure, healthy, aligned love is an effort, isn't a strategy. It's going to be, oops, safety, right? Nervous system safety, how it is that we feel safe in our body. So here are three truths about secure love, and these truths, there's research that says these statements to be true, that secure love feels calm because the nervous system is regulated, right? So secure love means nervous system regulation or safety. Your nervous system actually chooses your partners before your mind does, right? So when I say nervous system, right, we're talking about the system in your body, right? Your brain, your body, all the different nerves, right, that communicate. And so it's your nervous system who has been choosing the partners, not necessarily your mind. Secure love grows through consistency, not chemistry. And we're going to talk about the difference between what is chemistry and what is consistency. Secure love doesn't ask you to chase, prove, abandon yourself. It meets you where your body feels safe. All right. So, my story from going from survival mode, right? So, into safety in my relationships as well as my life and my business, right? So, as a daughter of immigrants, right, as a first gen Latina, um, my blueprint of love, right, developed early on, right, early on in the way that I saw my parents in their marriage and relationship and the women that were in my life. And some of those women are the women that are in telenovela. So I also want to name that, right? But that's how my blueprint, right? How I learned what love meant, right? And so what I learned was that to love, right, it meant survival. You had to sacrifice, right? You had to suffer. Um, I remember most of the novelas that I watched, right? The women would have to suffer before they got their like Prince Charming, right? And so I internalized that as my own messaging. I was like, oh, okay, that we have to earn love, right? We have to earn someone to choose us, right? We have to sacrifice our needs and put others first, right? Tenemos que aguantar, right? We have to overgive. We have to stay longer than we need to. Or, for me, it was also like this hyper dependence, right? Like what I saw my parents go through, right? Like, I felt that they needed to divorce, a long time ago, but again, that's not my decision. But in seeing their dynamics and how they communicated, there was no affection, right? How they showed love, right? Early on, I realized like I don't want that relationship. So I knew I didn't want that relationship. However, I didn't know how to attract the relationship that I wanted because my wiring, my conditioning, all I knew was what I saw at home with my parents. So on the outside, I was high functioning, right? But on the inside, I was dysregulated. And I really believed that something was wrong with me, that I felt unworthy, that again, I had to sacrifice, right? I had to sacrifice and overgive to be loved, to be accepted. So I found myself over and over in relationships that were unhealthy, that were toxic, the men that were jealous and controlling and insecure. I found myself in multiple situationships. Um, and and so, it's a reality, right? And there was even judgment with that, in which, I would tell myself like, wow, like I have, clinical experience, I'm a therapist, right? I'm healing, right? And even after then, right, I still find myself in these relationships, especially relationships that weren't for me. And I would stay longer than I needed to because I didn't know how to um, express what I really needed or end something when I wanted to. Because again, my nervous system was so conditioned to live by that blueprint that I was raised with, right? So my body kept choosing what felt familiar, right? And what felt familiar again was what I saw with my parents and the women that I also witnessed in how they expressed their love. Is this resonating with anybody? I'm curious to know like what has been your blueprint, right? Like where have you learned um your messaging about what love means, how to express it, right? Who were the role models that taught this? So, this what I'm talking about, right? It's my lived experience, right? This is what I went through. right? And I share this because I know what it's like to also be in this situation, where again, I intellectually I understood what was happening, but I couldn't do anything because my body didn't know how to. So the biggest shift for me where it really became pivotal, like a turning point, was when I realized, right, that insight, right, just getting information, having the awareness, insight alone wasn't going to be enough, right? It wasn't until I realized, again, that my nervous system was responding from survival. Survival, again, from the conditioning, my old attachment wounds, right? We haven't even talked about attachment, right? All of that, right, was shaping how I was showing up in my adult relationships, right? And I didn't realize all of that until I got tired of constantly feeling disappointed, of feeling like I couldn't be myself, that I had to hide parts of me or had to become the girl that like my partners wanted to be. The moment that I wasn't accepting myself and noticing that I was really unhappy in how I was showing up was when I really was like, okay, something has to change because what I'm doing now is not working. I'm not attracting those partners. If anything, I went from like, having being in those relationships to then now like not having relationships at all. So I went from one end all the way to the other end, right? And after years of like, being single, I realized what is it that what am I doing? Right. So I had to understand that my nervous system was there to protect me. It was doing exactly what it was designed to do. So for me, it took a lot of healing. It took a lot of, therapy, right? Going to like spiritual retreats, really working with the body, even sitting with plant medicine. It's so many different things, right? It wasn't one thing, but there was this desire to want to connect more to my body because I knew that my body was storing a lot of stuff and it was coming out, but I wasn't really connecting to it. So really, I had to learn how to recreate my blueprint of love, right? Unlearn, and rewire, right, a new way of how to love. And that didn't just shift my relationships, it also shifted like in terms of just like my personal life, work, my business. So really the safety really helps in all the different areas of your life. So I want to talk about a little bit of like what does survival mode look like in love, and then what does secure love look in love. Okay. Again, the survival is when your body doesn't feel safe. Your body is scanning for danger. There's a threat, right? As first gen, right, this is a common experience that we go through, right? We are in survival mode, right? The way that our parents taught us, our work ethic, hay que trabajar, right? No days off, grind, 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 right? And that survival also comes into our relationships, right? The survival, again, it's a protection mechanism, right? That it's there to protect us, right? Protect us from getting hurt, from being vulnerable, right? It's also, when you're in survival mode, you're constantly activated, right? You're activated, you're triggered, you're dysregulated, and you tend to choose familiarity. You choose what feels familiar. And there's three types of this. Okay, and we're going to go over each different type, and I would love to know where what resonates with you in terms of the type. And then, right, the goal is to be able to, again, have healthy, secure love, right? Secure meaning feeling confident, feeling secure, feeling steady, feeling calm, feeling safe enough to be yourself, to be authentic, to be able to express your needs without guilt, right? To know when to stay, when to set a boundary, when to walk away, how to trust your body, how to listen to, how your body feels when you make decisions, right? So although, you know, the ultimate goal is to find, you know, our partner and that partnership, right? The focus here is really about you coming in within yourself, right? And becoming the woman that you need to be, that you want to be able to receive, right, the secure love and that partnership. It's also about like taking your power, right? Taking your power and doing it in a place of like, again, like security, confidence. All right, so let's first go into anxious. Okay, this is and these can kind of mirror like the attachment wounds, right? Anxious, right, is when you want reassurance, right? You feel anxious, you feel nervous, right? Has it ever happened to you where, let's say, I don't know, you're dating somebody, right? And the first, dates or the first few weeks, things are going great. There's consistency, right? You're messaging, you get every, morning text, right? And then all of a sudden, like, you don't get that morning text, right? And it sends you into a spiral. Then you're like rereading the messages or like wondering what you did, right? You go into this loop of anxiety, right? Where you feel you need like reassurance, you need to know what's happening, right? And some of that is valid, right? In terms of like obviously how things happen, right? But with the anxiety, right, it then becomes like this survival of like, I need reassurance now. You start creating this narrative and it just takes you into this like emotional like loop. And someone that's anxious, right, wants like immediate gratification. Avoidant. Okay, so this one. So the anxious person, right, kind of comes off as more like in like I don't like to use the word clingy, but that's what kind of it can feel like in terms of like wanting the reassurance, the attention, right? The avoidant is kind of the opposite. This is where like there's distance. Like you avoid intimacy, you avoid getting close, or the moment that you start noticing some closeness, you like pull back. When someone wants more attention from you, or wants to get intimate with you, again, you put back. This is the like, I need space here, right? You don't want to connect because, right, that connection feels threatening. Distance is actually safe for you. Um, so you rather like be independent and self-sufficient than rather be vulnerable, right? Maybe you don't want to get in a relationship because, you just don't want to lose yourself or you're just too busy, right? But that distance, it's coming from a place of survival. And lastly, where I do find a lot of the women I work with in this high functioning survival, right? Where we appear confident, we are calm, right? We're the ones that, like in relationships or in dating, like we overgive because we try to keep things steady. We plan the dates, we initiate the conversations, like we pretty much take control of the relationship, right? However, there isn't connection there, right? We're so focused on trying to control to keep the relationship steady and going, than actually staying grounded in having that connection with that person. You may also minimize like what your needs are, and you just tell yourself, "Oh, I'm fine, right? I can handle it." This is a high functioning that like is not gonna ask for help, right? They feel like they gotta do it all, right? On the outside, they have it together, but in the inside, right? Um, they're not, right? And so I have found myself um moving from like the avoidant, right? Not wanting closeness, right? To also the high functioning, right? So I'm curious for you that are here, which one resonates the most? The anxious, the avoidant, the high functioning, and it may be that more than one. That's okay. And so anxious, high functioning, and again, these are all ways that we've learned, right? Because either we saw it, right, or we weren't taught otherwise of like what would the other end look like? Anxious, high functioning. Yeah. Both at times. All right. So now we're going to get to, now that we understand, right, the different types that exist within survival love, right? Survival mode and love, right? Our goal is we want to get to secure love, right? Again, love that feels healthy, aligned, secure, calm, steady, right? And so we're going to go over three shifts to be able to attract that secure love, okay? And also be able to create nervous system safety from the inside out. All right, so here the first shift is urgency to regulation, okay? How many in here have ever gone on a date, right? And let's say that after the date, the guy, says, had a great date, looking forward to seeing you again. Then the next day, you don't hear from them. And what may happen is that then you go into this like spiral, you overthink, you like, call your girlfriend, like, oh my gosh, I went to this date and it went so well. It looked like we're having such a good time. He messaged me last night, but he hasn't reached out to me at all, right? So you go into this like overthinking, like what happened? You have maybe a desire to want to reach out to him, like, hey, what happened, right? Um, you want to like there's this urgency to try to get an answer, to try to understand what happened, right? This is where again we see the that the urgency is also it's a nervous system response, right? Your nervous system is responding to something that's happening, right? um so the shift is about, in that moment, wanting reassurance, wanting clarity, wanting an answer, right? To shift to more of like being able to pause, right? Regulate yourself, and choose from a place of safety, of calmness, right? Um, so I had a client that came in with that situation of constantly like after dates, or like dating people at a time. She kept spiraling after each date, right? Coming in and, like feeling unworthy, like I must be doing something wrong. Like after the first date, right? They never reach out. And so this urgency, right, kept exhausting her, right? She kept feeling exhausted and disappointed. She's like, I don't want to date anymore, and it's valid, right? Because these experiences are, they do take energy, right? So in helping her learn different strategies to like regulate, right? Whether it's like taking deep breaths, connecting to her body, understanding her body cues and triggers, right? Helping her to learn how to pause, right? To first check in to see what's going on before reacting, right? Before taking the next urgency step to try to, get um, the response that you want. So after that, she was able to take her time in terms of like, not rushing into responding, not rushing into making decisions, right? She was able to feel calmer and grounded in her choices and like more discerning. Here I have another example of another client that I worked with, 39-year-old, first gen mujer. She came to see me after a breakup, where she just felt emotionally like down, and she, she also was having like a string of relationships, right? Where it just things didn't work out. They kept breaking up to her. They kept breaking up with her. Um, and so again, once her breakup came, after her breakup, like she went into this like, I need to start dating, like I need distraction. She went on the dating apps, right? And she, even then, she was actually going on dates, and the dates, that she was going with were just not available, not wanting anything serious, right? And so she kept questioning again, like, is it me? Is there something wrong with me? How come no one wants to be with me? My relationships always fail, right? And so again, in me being able to help her learn and recognize, right, how to pause and regulate, understand what her attachment wounds are, understand what beliefs get coming up for her, and be able to recreate, right, and shift whether the narrative or again, and those moments when she did feel dysregulated in her body, right, that she was able to ground herself, soothe herself in connecting with like her body again through like the breathing or doing like specific like movement, somatic tools um, that were helpful to her. Shift number two, this is consistency over chemistry. This one is a good one because a lot of us, and I myself, I'm guilty of this, um, that when, we meet someone, right, that there's this like spark, right? There's this spark, this excitement, the butterflies, right? And then we start making meaning of that. Like, oh my gosh, this is real. There must be something, right? That right there is chemistry, right? Chemistry is those moments, right, of the butterflies, excitement, right? However, butterflies actually come from anxiety. So it's a physiological response coming from anxiety. So you actually want to be able to feel calm, regulated, um, instead of the butterfly. So that I want to make that distinction because I think there's a belief that the sparks, mean that again, there's a real connection. It means something, right? And so here the idea is that we want there to be consistency, right? Consistency in the communication, consistency in how they show up. Um, Consistency in their behaviors, right? Because sometimes we may attach to those sparks and there's so much inconsistency in between, right? And we dismiss that because we hold on to that connection because we feel it's so intense that we attach to that. Okay. Um, so we want to be able to focus more on that, right? On things consistent, right? In terms of emotional availability, right? Again, so when you're dating someone, like how are they showing their availability, right? This doesn't mean that they have like the messaging, like you have to message every single day, right? But it's like, are they being consistent in, are they following through? So all of this is just information, right? So again, another client who again, she came in with like, but but there was a spark, right? Like I really like him. We had a really good conversation, right? But then they're not being consistent. Like he's not planning dates after that, right? He's not following through. She's the one that kind of like keeps reaching out to him, right? So this is about helping her, right, understand the difference between, what chemistry is and for her to recognize when she is activated, right? When she is getting those butterflies, that's more information and not necessarily attraction. So being able for there to be so consistency is what is going to allow the chemistry to become secure love. There is like so I'm not saying that you're not allowed to have chemistry or chemistry is all bad. We're not saying that at all. But what I'm saying if you just hold on to that chemistry and you don't pay attention to everything else, right? That's when you find yourself in those situations, right? With the consistency, right? That's where like that chemistry can build. All right. Again, here we have 1 second. Okay. Well, I'll do this one briefly. So another client again burned out in dating, constantly dating, being in situationships, things not really fully, working out as she wanted them to. And in her, learning again how to create safety in her body, how to pay attention to the red flags, right? How to check in with herself when she was triggered versus just reacting, how to soothe her body, right? All those things helped her begin to start creating that safety so that when she was going on dates or she was dating, she was recognizing how she was feeling in the dates, right? After the dates, um, to be able to then know how she's gonna, respond next. And the last shift here, it's self-trust versus proving. Okay, so self-trust is about listening to your body, right? Trusting yourself, your intuition, right? Um, Sometimes when we're not trusting ourselves, this is when we can overgive, we stay connected, right? Longer than we should, right? We aren't able to trust ourselves to like walk away, set that boundary, express our needs, right? It becomes a sense of like having to prove, right? Having to like prove your love, prove that you're worthy or that they're gonna stay, right? So this specific client, right? She constantly found herself like explaining, accommodating, right? Minimizing her needs and pleasing her partner to keep the love, right? So she really had to practice listening to her no, right? Listening to her body when she felt uncomfortable, when she was triggered. It was about her listening to her body. What is my body saying? What is that, that sensation, right? What is this saying? And being able to sit with that, um, and not feel like that she had to do something about it, or that she had to prove herself, right? And the moment that you know that you are worthy just the way that you are, that you don't have to prove yourself for love, right? That's the moment that you can also start choosing, right? And attracting partners that are for you, right? Because you're able to discern, right? Your own boundaries, right? You're listening to, again, your body, right? Our body, again, our nervous system, it responds first, whether it's conscious or unconscious. All right. So I was going to share a story of how I have found myself in situations longer than I should, but I'm going to skip it for the sake of time. I think I already kind of shared my experience. I definitely wanted to take a moment to also share and teach you a strategy. Um, one second. Sorry, I think people were getting kicked out of the room. I'm just letting people back in. Okay. I wanted to teach you a strategy on how to start creating safety in your body. There's so many strategies, so many tools, right? Mindset tools, body tools. Um, and this one specifically is to be able to get you in a state to be able to then attract that secure love. Okay. And I'm going to first share with you what it is, and then I'm going to guide you through the practice. Okay. So for now, just kind of pay attention and before you actually practice this on your own. So one way to create safety, again, to connect to your body, connect to yourself, right? You first want to orient yourself to where you are, right? So being able to pause, right? Externally, look at what's around you, right? Notice where you are. Um, you even activating your senses, right? It's a way to ground you, to bring you in the present moment. This is the way that you tell your nervous system that you are safe. Then you're going to regulate, right? Internally, right? So this is where one strategy is, breathing, right? Taking a deep breath in, right? Inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your mouth, telling your body, right? If there is a trigger and you feel there is a threat, right? The breathing is going to help regulate and calm your nervous system. And then you're going to anchor. This is more like a felt sense experience. And you're going to connect to your body and you're going to ask your body, right? Whether you still feel activated or whether it is that you feel settled and calm. And this kind of becomes the baseline to like um, attracting. All right, so we're gonna practice this together. Okay. So whenever it is that and this is when you can use this. So this is it's a short, 3-minute reset for dating triggers. Okay, so the reason that a lot of my focus has been on dating, right? Because obviously you have to date first to also, get to then for it to become a relationship, right? So whenever it is that you feel the urge to want to reach out to someone, you want to chase, right? When someone pulls back, right? Or you notice a shift, when a text goes unanswered, right? Or you don't hear from them, this is when you're going to want to use this specific strategy. So again, So wherever you are right now, okay, I want you to pause, okay? And before, so imagine yourself being in in one of these situations, right? So before you respond, you decide, or you spiral, you're gonna pause. You're gonna gently look around your room. So I want you to look around where you are now, and I want you to name three things that you see. What are three things that you see around you? So just name them either silently or out loud. And then notice two things you can hear. So what are two things you can hear? And then I want you to feel one place your body is supported. So anywhere in your body, what body part feels supported? Your feet, your back, your stomach, your heart. Okay. Next, we're going to do some breathing. Okay. You're going to inhale slowly through your nose with the count of four. One, two, three, four. And you're going to exhale for the count of six, five, four, three, two, one. So the exhale is always longer than the inhale. Okay, so let's do this together. Inhale with the count of four. One, two, three, four. Exhale with the count of six. Six, five, four, three, two, one. Inhale with the count of four. One, two, three, four. Exhale with the count of six. Six, five, four, three, two, one. Now you're going to connect to your body. Okay, and you're going to ask yourself, do I feel activated or settled? Okay. If you were in this situation in the moment, right? And if you still felt activated, right? You still feel a sensation in your body, you still feel this urgency, this flutter, okay? I want you to still stay with that. Give yourself permission to wait. Wait before you respond. Wait before you do anything, okay? Once you feel more settled, calmer, then you can respond or make a decision on what to do next. So again, pause, regulate, choose, right? It's essentially the same as the other one. We're gonna pause, we're gonna orient ourselves, we're gonna go internally, we're gonna regulate, and then we're gonna feel we're gonna anchor ourselves in our body. So this is one of the many strategies that could be helpful. So safety first, then choice, then love. All right. So we still have a few more minutes. So I hope that you guys can all stay with me to the very end. Give me 1 second here. Okay. So if any of today resonated, right, here's why. You're not here because you need more information, right? You're not here because, some of this maybe you already know, right? Um, you're here because something in your body recognizes what's happening, right? You have the awareness, you have the insight, right? You're intelligent, right? You're emotionally mature. You understand your patterns, right? You understand this in an intellectual level, right? You've done the work. Maybe you've been to therapy. You've done a lot to get here already. I know I have, and I'm still doing the work, right? But knowing hasn't been enough to change how love lands, right? And that's because the real change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens with support, repetition, and regulation over time. So this is where we move from awareness to embodiment. How do you embody? right, what you know, right, into your body? How do you rewire the way you love on a neuroscientific level, a neurobiological level, right? Because all of this too, it's rewiring, right? It's rewiring your body, rewiring your mind, right? And it become more of embody, become part of it, become it. So I want to share a little bit about, for me, like I mentioned earlier, I've done a lot of individual work, right? Working with therapists, coaches. But for me, what's been the most healing is community, right? Whether I'm hosting an event, or whether I'm participating in an event. And community, for me, is central to the work that I do. Because in community, we get to witness each other, we get to co-regulate, right? So earlier we talked about that strategy. That's a self-regulation strategy, right? Something that you yourself do for yourself, right? Community, that's co-regulation. How can you regulate, right, with others? And for me, that's what's also helped teach my nervous system to feel safe in relationships, in relation with others, not just in my romantic relationships, right? But also in relationship with other mujeres, right? With other healers, with entrepreneurs, right? At the end of the day, love is the same, right? In all the different parts of your life. Obviously, romantically, it's a bit different. So, with that being said, I'm excited to share that I have created the first ever group coaching container designed specifically for mujeres to heal in community, to learn nervous system safety within community. And that is what I've called the Magnetic Mujer Society. Okay. This is a 3 month or 12-week program in which all the things I talked about in terms of like the different like strategies, the shifting, right? The rewiring, the tools, the nervous system, right? Even like trauma, right? Trauma informed strategies, all of that, right? To help you attract, right? Your dream partner or relationship from a place of safety and not survival. So this is for the mujer who's ready to stop chasing love from survival and start receiving the kind that feels calm, consistent, and real. Oops. So as you notice, I call it the magnetic mujer, right? And so who is the magnetic mujer? She is one who isn't louder, prettier, or more perfect. She's anchored. She moves with clarity. She speaks her needs without apology, without having to over-explain. She doesn't shrink or chase. She doesn't chase or shrink to be chosen. She's magnetic because her nervous system is regulated, because her love no longer costs her herself. In the chat, who can, I want you to all, in the chat right now to put like, I am magnetic because you guys all are. So in the chat, all of you that are here in the chat, put I am magnetic. Love it. Yes. Because you are. So what happens in these 3 months together? Okay, we're gonna go through a process. Okay, we talked about like my story was about having to rewire my blueprint of love. The way I learned love, I had to unlearn it and learn a new way, right? And so the first phase or the first month, right? It's that. How do we release those stories, the narratives, the attachments, right? The things that no longer serve you, the things that you don't want to hold on to, right? Those imprints from your past. And how do we create a new way of, again, thinking, being, showing up, right? Phase number two, the embodiment, really embodying this magnetic mujer energy, right? Where you feel safe, right? Where you express your needs with confidence, right? Where you're able to, tap into your feminine energy, right? And as you're dating, right, dating feels calmer because you're in control, because you can recognize the red flags, right? Because you can choose for yourself, right? You can make decisions. And the last phase here is that when you start embodying your magnetism, then you start attracting that love, right? Again, you date from calmness, from clarity, right? From feeling safe, from trusting yourself, right? From your intuition. You're able to communicate, right? So during this time together, um, we will have weekly 90-minute calls. Okay, it's a personalized women-only container, right? Where I'm going to provide, you know, teaching, right? Teaching, guiding different embodiment, somatic, nervous system practices, as well as provide coaching, right? Being able to coach you in the things, your blocks, the things that you have difficulty with live in the moment. Um, so in these 3 months, right, of my trauma-informed coaching and healing, right, this is just shows you like what the costs can be, right? Um, Again, years of clinical training, right? I literally pour my heart and soul in what I do because as a woman who has gone through this, I also want to show you the what is possible for you. So the investment to my program, okay, it is for the full payment, it is 1,500. Okay. However, I do offer payment plans and you'll get access to all of that I shared. The 12 weeks, the coaching, the practices, the lifetime access to all the material, right? And most importantly, that you're going to do this in community with other mujeres who are walking the same path as you, right? Who can help you regulate, who can also be there to support you and encourage you, right? And if, let's say, you wanted deeper, more intensive, one-on-one access to me, there is the option of upgrading, meaning that you would add three additional one-to-one intensives with me that will be outside of the coaching call. So here are some beautiful messages that my clients have shared with me about their experience in working with me. Um, Here, that after a devastating breakup, right, they came in feeling anxious, unworthy, stuck in old patterns, right? But they were able to no longer chase love and learned how to feel safe inside again, right? They used to think that they needed to earn love. Not through this work. She realized that she is loved, right? And that she no longer was going to settle or check from a place of unworthiness. I do have a fast action bonus in which if you enroll in Magnetic Mujer Society within 48 hours, you will receive a 60-minute private intensive with me. And together we will already create a personalized um, uh, map for you in terms of what you're going to work on, what you're going to regulate, how to get clarity, and how to start rewiring those patterns in love. So this will be as of today within the next 48 hours if you sign on to the Magnetic Society group program. And what's most exciting about this is that you will be part of the founding cohort. Okay, so again, this is the first time ever when I went, through my own, healing journey to arrive where I am, right? I wish that there was something for me like this, right? And because of that, right, that's what's motivating me to create this because I believe in the work. I believe that you're all deserving of that. Um, it is going to be a small, intimate container, so spots will be limited. If this is something that, you feel there's a pool, right, you want to join, um, I can also, offer you if you feel you want more information, right? I can also get on a call with you and give you more information on what that is. But this is for you to be in community, to deal with other mujeres, right? To really get to attract that secure love that you deserve. The program begins the week of February 16th. The calls will be on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Let's also talk about, right, maybe some thoughts that may be coming up, right? But what if, right, you've already done the therapy, right? Like how is this program different, right? And many of the women that are coming, right, they're deeply self-aware, right? That they understand their patterns, they know what's happening, right? But this work goes beyond just insight, it really goes into the body, right? And learning how to shift that, um, really working with like your nervous system. What if, I don't want a relationship right now, right? And that's okay, right? The goal isn't here, the outcome isn't just like, oh, let's get that partnership, let's find our dream partner. Like that is part of it. However, it's about, right, healing that relationship with yourself, right? You becoming the woman that is ready to receive that partnership that you are so deserving of. What if, you have a lot going on right now and you don't want to add any more pressure to what you already have, right? Know that again, this is slow, somatic, capacity honoring, right? It's not about performing or being perfect or keeping up. Um, if let's say you aren't able to join the calls live, they will be recorded every week. So you will be able to come back to them. Um, if you're not able to join. And lastly, I'm not sure I can afford this, right? And so that's real, and I want to honor that, right? What I want you to ask yourself, right, is what is it costing you to keep choosing love from survival, right? So this investment is about changing the pattern, right? Shifting your nervous system, not continuing to pay for it either emotionally, relationally, or energetically. Hmm. All right. Thank you all for staying with me this long. I truly, truly appreciate you all being here. I definitely want to leave room for any questions that you may have based on anything that I taught or shared, or any clarification or any questions about the program. Thank you for this beautiful space. Oh, you're welcome. Yes, 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 yes. You all make this space. So do also thank yourselves for being here, for choosing to share this energy, right? For, learning and putting yourself in these spaces, right? That are so powerful and so impactful. So thank you all for just taking this evening with me. For me, it's truly an honor to share whatever insight and information I may have. And if it is that, you want to work with me as well, right, feel free to reach out. I will follow up with an email with the replay of of the workshop as well as the links. You can actually um, on my website, you can go to the coaching page in which you can find more information about the coaching program. You can also enroll there as well. In the email, I will be sharing also the link. I will also share it right now if that's okay. Alrighty. Again, thank you all for being here. You're all amazing. You're all magnetic. And I hope that you were able to take something with you and begin attracting that love that you deserve. Good night.